San Francisco is home to many iconic landmarks, without a doubt the first being the Golden Gate Bridge, but next to that, there's one landmark that stands out past any others. Join us as we explore Alcatraz Island.
Historic structures on Alcatraz Island are protected by law. Do not collect or take anything off the island.
Operated by the National Park Service, Alcatraz receives over 1.4 million guests per year. Visitors meet at Pier 41 to take a boat over.
I want to find out why. Raise your hand. The reason why you're excited, you heard Alcatraz was a fortress. I'm here for the bricks. Phone, who's here for that? Cool. Everyone else is what? TripAdvisor? Or if you Google San Francisco.
After a brief introduction, you are left to take a free-range tour around the main areas. In this video, we will be visiting these areas as well as taking a look at some of the off-limits parts. We're heading down the Agave Trail first, which loops around the southern side of the island before heading roughly 60 feet up. Along the trail are many agave plants, put there to help slow the erosion of the island against the harsh waters of the bay. We've looped around the parade grounds, the large open area that was originally used for drills and marching when the island first became a military base in the 1860s. In its prison years, this area was used as housing for correctional officers and their families, as well as a recreational building and offices. These buildings are now only rubble. This building is also residential apartments as well as the medical officer's residence. Today, it houses the park services as well as a gift shop, bookstore, and museum. On the exterior, you can still see the hand-painted signs from the Native American occupation of the island in 1969. Staying nearly 2 years as a protest against the government's policies related to their race, the Native Americans demanded the island be returned to them and renovated to a cultural center. At first, public opinion was for the protest, until a number of fires broke out, destroying the parade ground buildings as well as several others. And though it was disputed whether fires were started by occupants or as a way to get them to leave, the occupation finally ended in 1971. The apartment building was built in 1905 on the ground of the earlier barracks that was built in the 1860s. It fell into disrepair during prison times as the parade ground buildings were being solely utilized to house the guards. Roughly 300 citizens lived on Alcatraz at a time. They had their own bowling alley, a small convenience store, and a soda machine. Primary shopping was still done in the city, as there were 12 scheduled boat trips each day to and from the island. Heading north on the island, you must pass under the guardhouse, which is the oldest remaining building on the island. Built in 1857, it included this Sally Port, which was the secured entry into the fort. Here is also where the first ever prisoners of the island were locked up, as in the basement was a military jail cell that held disorderly soldiers. This basement also held Confederate spies during the Civil War. Multiple additions were made to the building, including the school and chapel building, which also had officers' quarters in the basement that then became living space for unmarried guards during the prison years. The majority of this building is still undergoing renovations, same as the upper floors of the apartments. Further north lie the ruins of the Officers Club building, which burned down in 1970. Inside here is where officers could relax after work hours with a 2-lane bowling alley, a library, bar, dance floor, pool table, ping pong, or the frequent dances and dinners. Further north was unfortunately closed at the time of our visit, but beyond lies the powerhouse, which is the building that has the Alcatraz sign painted on its roof. Today, Alcatraz is actually one of the nation's largest microgrids, powering a large part of the island via solar panels, but previously the park system had to ferry up to 2,000 gallons of diesel fuel a week over. Beside here is the Cisterns, Bluff, and water tower. As they had no running water of their own, water is brought over by a barge and stored here. It is also where the former Hill Tower was located, one of several guard towers. It was stocked with multiple guns and gas grenades. In 1976, a guard tower was blown up for the finale of the third Dirty Harry film, which drew protests from city politicians before they were informed it was actually a fake tower built on the parade grounds that was blown up. While we're on the topics of movies, numerous films have been shot on the island, starting with Point Blank in 1967. To date, there have been well over 50 movies and TV shows that have been filmed on the island, and countless more based on it but filmed elsewhere. Beyond this fence is the Model Industries building. Built as the laundry building for the military, it was then used for workshops for inmates. The exterior window bars were made from old cells but ceased operations in 1939. The building remains off limits to guests to this day. Next, we're at the New Industries building, which opened the same year the Model Industry building closed due to the building shifting closer to the cliff edge. The first floor of this one was used as workspace where prisoners could earn money in either a clothing factory, dry cleaner, furniture plant, brush factory, and office. The second floor was the new laundry building. The large interior is used for photo and art installations occasionally today. Across from the officers' gardens lies a small building. First used as a tunnel entrance for soldiers to cross the island easily, it was placed in 1910 with this building, which was the Morgue. It had 3 vaults and an examination table. However, it is only documented to have been used once, as prisoners were typically brought back to the mainland. And finally, we're at the entrance to the prison. Outside here is the Lighthouse and Warden's house. Now just ruins, this used to be a 15-room mansion built in 1921. Special prisoners were allowed to work in his garden or in his house for him. This lighthouse was built in 1909, replacing the original lighthouse that was finished in 1854, making it the first operational lighthouse on the Pacific Ocean side of the United States. We are now entering the front doors. To the left was check-in for visitors. The headphones everyone is wearing is a self-guided audio narration. These are the guards' offices. Over 29 years of its operation, only 3 guards, or screws as the prisoners called them, lost their lives during escape attempts. To prevent a prisoner from ever getting a weapon, while in the blocks, guards only had their hands to defend themselves. We have now entered into the prison itself and into B block. Also called Broadway, each block was named after a famous street. There are 4 blocks total in the prison. Visitation was here along the administration wall, where inmates were allowed 1 visit a month. We are now looking into Frank Morris's cell, who, along with the Anglin brothers, all fashioned these fake heads and escaped via the back of their cells. Over the years, 36 total prisoners attempted escaping. Only 2 successfully made it off the island and 5 were unaccounted for, presumably drowned. This is the far side of A block, which is the only section of the jail closed for renovations. A block was actually only rarely ever used to house prisoners. Instead, it was used as material storage, though the 3 inmates involved in the 1946 escape attempt were all imprisoned over here after that incident. These spiral staircases were added after the prison opened and resulted in 12 cells being removed, making a total of 336 cells in B and C blocks. Cells in these blocks measured 5 by 9 feet and only had a small sink, toilet, and cot. The private cells were actually one of the few things the prisoners liked, as it reduced the chances of sexual attacks and gave prisoners more privacy.
So we can do a couple things before. One, you can ask me a series of questions that will challenge me beyond belief. Or 2, we can just stare at each other awkwardly for the next 3 minutes. What do you want to do? Staring, let's do this. Who said that?
She said, were there ever any women at the prison?
Incarcerated?
Yes.
No, this was an all-male facility. Close the cell doors twice. Y'all could leave at any point. You don't have to stay here the whole time. If something I say makes you feel uncomfortable and you want to leave, that's totally okay. Y'all paid $40 to come here, so you can do pretty much whatever you want. I want you to tell me how the noise makes you feel. Is it a good noise or is it a bad noise? You think we can all do that? All right, let's do it. I know it's a little hard for you to hear from this end. But you've done it.
The food was also another positive thing about Alcatraz. Unlike other prisons, here they allowed prisoners to eat as much as they wanted. This was not to be nice, but in order to keep them content from ideas of escape, and overweight to make any attempts more difficult. The cafeteria was nicknamed the gas chamber due to all the tear gas canisters on each pillar in case of a riot. Another common question is, were executions performed here? The answer is no. Any prisoners with a death sentence were transferred to San Quentin State Penitentiary for their executions. That being said, there were 8 people murdered by inmates on the island. 15 people died of natural illness, and 5 committed suicide. We are now on D block, known as Segregation. The 36 cells on this side were larger due to the fact that inmates were stuck in here permanently, except for a once-a-week trip to the rec yard. On the ground floor, there are also 6 solitary confinement cells. Prisoners were thrown in the hole and enclosed in complete darkness for 24 hours a day. Nexus Solitary is the library. Upon arrival to Alcatraz, prisoners were given a list of books available, and they were allowed to subscribe to magazines. However, any subjects on crime or violence were all pre-removed beforehand. There was also a separate law library added in A block after the prison opened. We're now heading into the recreation yard, where inmates could spend up to 5 hours a day on weekends. Here, prisoners could play games like baseball, basketball, or chess. The yard was also the scene of the most violent escape attempt in 1946, where 6 prisoners planned to kill the tower guards, take hostages, and use them to escape to the docks. They managed to capture a guard and take his keys, but never made it out into the yard when they found they had the wrong key. They then managed to capture other guards and gain some weapons, resulting in the Battle of Alcatraz between prisoners and Marines offshore. After an all-night standoff, 2 of the guards and 3 of the prisoners were dead.
And the only thing I do require from you is participation. What do I mean by that? I don't want you to come up here and start talking to me, because it's a safety hazard.
After 29 years of operation, Alcatraz was decided to be shuttered as the cost of maintenance and operation had got too high. Opening as a national park in 1972, Alcatraz has now been a museum for longer than it was a prison. And through the efforts of the National Park Service, it is sure to remain a top tourist destination for decades to come.
From yonder storm, oh Lord, please bring me shelter. Please bring me shelter from yonder storm. Oh, sun, won't you shine on me? Won't you shine on me when the rain has come? Oh, sun, won't you shine on me?